Hi, I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to share with you some reflections on the gospel in this fifth Sunday of Easter. You know, when I was a young teenager, just full of myself, I got into this terrific fight with my mom. It went on for a couple of days, and my dad had to finally step in and bring calm to the world. And he pulled me aside afterwards and he said, Jim, let me give you some advice. Obey the women in your life. Just obey them. Because if they're happy, you have a shot at being happy. And if they're not happy, you have no shot at being happy. So obey them. And I do. I obey my sisters. When they call me up and tell me to do something, I do it. Jim, you're coming out on the 5th. I'm there. Wear your collar. You bet. Bring this for a gift. Okay. I don't even question anymore. I just obey. And I remember my sister Jan one time, she asked me to give the dad talk to her son Ryan, who was having some difficulties with a girlfriend. And so I told Ryan what I just said about my dad. And at the end I said, now Ryan, did you understand what I just said? And he goes, yeah, listen to the women in your life. No, Ryan, I didn't say listen. I said obey. There is a huge difference between those two words. Obey. But doesn't that word, the very word itself, obey, sound so limiting and constrictive? Like, because I'm obeying, I can't do what I want to do or be what I want to be. It sounds unpleasant. And I think to myself, who do we obey in this life? Well, first I guess there's the state. I obey the state and federal laws. I stop at red lights because I don't want tickets. And I pay my taxes because I don't want to go to jail. And so, there's some laws out there I don't like, but, I'm going to obey, sure. And I guess when we're younger, we obey our parents, are supposed to. That's part of the relationship there. But even that, in time, kind of fades or evolves into something else as we get older. I remember one time, I took some time off from the parish to be with my mom, and we were one night watching TV, and it's about, it got to be about 9:15, 9:30, and Mom saw the clock and said, oh, Jim, it's getting late. It's time for you to go to bed. I just started laughing. I said, Mom, I'm all grown up now. I'm 38 years old. I think I know when I can go to bed or not. And she just, well, you know what I meant. So, who do we obey? Well, in the gospel today, in ever so many words, Jesus is saying to his disciples, you obey me. I'm the vine. You're the branches. You have life because of me, and apart from me, you have no life. And if you remain in me, that is, if you live in me, then you can produce great fruit. So you obey me. And then, does that mean that the coin of our relationship with the Lord is obedience? We just do what he tells us to do? No. It's something far deeper than that. In this passage, Jesus also says, whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he will grant you. And what that means, well, what it doesn't mean is we can ask for whatever we want. Like, God, I want a Porsche in Jesus' name. We know that that's not what Jesus was intending, but what was he intending? Well, it's like this. Imagine a mother asks her child to go next door and ask for a cup of sugar. The child goes next door and asks for that cup of sugar in the mother's name. It was as if the mother herself was there at that door asking for that very thing. That's what asking in Jesus' name. We ask the Father for that which Jesus would ask for, and that is what we will receive. So the question really is, what did Jesus ask for? Well, he asked the Father for the grace to be able to obey the commands that the Father was giving him. The command to wash feet. even though some of those feet that were being washed didn't deserve it, even though Judas Iscariot was part of that foot washing. To follow the Father's commands to forgive everyone, even those who were unrepentant, as were the Pharisees. To ask the Father for the grace to follow his will and drink from that cup, which he did not want to drink from, but he knew that if he did, it would lead to his death. And somehow, if he were to follow the Father's will, something wonderful would be born into this world. And that's what Jesus was praying for. And that kind of obedience isn't just one of duty. The Father tells me what to do and I obey out of duty. No, at all. Nor is that what Jesus is asking from his disciples. He's not expecting them to obey as a soldier would a general, saluting and going off and doing your duty. Obedience has very little to do with duty. And it's certainly not just the kind of obedience we have to give because we have no choice, as would be a slave. Jesus goes on to say, I no longer speak of you as slaves, for a slave does not know what his master is about. Instead, I call you friends. And that's the kind of relationship that Jesus establishes with his disciples. And it's out of friendship that we obey. Jesus described his relationship with God as one of the Father loves the Son and the Son loves the Father. That was the basis, the coin of their relationship. And it was because of that love that Jesus would obey the Father. He did it out of love. And that's the same thing is true of the disciple. It is because of this friendship that Jesus establishes with his disciples and with us that we are called to obey, and we obey out of friendship. Because if I have a friend who is willing to lay down his life for me, if I have a friend who's willing to walk with me no matter what, even when I make terrible mistakes, and if I have a friend who's willing to forgive me over and over and over, well, if that kind of friend that I have asks me for something, oh yeah, I'm going to give it to him. You bet he's going to get it. Because that kind of friendship based on love calls for obedience that flows out of gratitude. So grateful for all that Jesus has given to me. And for all that he has given to me, I obey.